So how does future of education looks like to you?
Today, you have everything on a click of a button. Go to a Gemini, ask a question, you will get an answer. So for a student, they need to evolve to connecting it to a real life situation or the adaptability and the implementation of the concept they are learning.
And then prompt engineering came up, so rapidly. It was not existing at all. Who ever thought of that putting in a prompt would be a skill? And one skill every student must build to survive in the AI world.
Continue thinking, continue solving problems. If you're not using your brain cells to think beyond what AI is giving you as an output, and you're not building, chances are that you will never be industry ready. Skill sets that students need to acquire. We're already talking about prompt engineering. We are already talking about how do we build multimodal systems. We are already talking about how do I use AI to improve my teaching and learning experience.
Welcome to Unscripted with Archie Jackson. In today's podcast, we have a very special guest who is at an intersection of both education as well as technology. He is India Head EdTech and Education at Google, Vaibhav Srivastava. Welcome, Vaibhav.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Let me quickly start with my first question. And in fact, not just first question. Let's deep dive into your evolution, your journey into Google. So how does Google struck in your entire?
Interestingly, it's been 5 years at Google and almost 22 years in the industry. So I started from a small town, a small town, born and brought up, graduated from a small town. Somehow did my MBA from Mumbai, and then got into the workforce. Did jobs at multiple companies like HP, IBM, Microsoft. Google is where I am right now, and it's almost 5 years here. But the whole transition happened through the evolution journey of my experience, and education happened by chance. It was not planned. Way back in 2020, 2010, in fact, I was given the charter to drive Microsoft's education business. And then I spent the decade working with educators, policymakers, different facets of, students, teachers, faculty, administrators in education. And that's how I somehow I figured out that I like being in that space, working with kids, working with higher education students and the policymakers to define the path of or trajectory of technology within education. And somehow it got stuck. Google called me in 2021, peak COVID, when they were setting up their education business. Earlier, so I'm part of the Google Cloud business. Cloud started their education business in India in 2021. And I was the first person to be hired in the team to set up from base. So when I joined, there was hardly any business. And from there to over 5 years, now we are a team. And we're growing almost triple digit every year. It has been some phenomenal journey in the last 5 years.
Wonderful, Vaibhav. So how does education in Google Cloud interlock? So what's the interlock between the EdTech space and the Google Cloud?
So Google is at the helm of technology, right? And as a DNA, we are a learning company. So we provide solutions to EdTechs and to educators and education institutes both. EdTechs, as you know, are education technology companies. They are built or bought in the cloud companies. So we actually work with a lot of them to provide their infrastructure, platform, software service. It's a mix of everything. So they can come to us to build on top of Google Cloud. We provide all the technologies, and so it starts from your infra. It starts from compute, network, storage. AI now. AI is the talk of the town these days.
Right.
And with our Gemini line of products, I think it's very relevant for all EdTechs to come and build on us. For educators and institutes, we actually work with them to see how can we modernize their campuses, how can we digitize their campuses, how can I improve a teaching experience of a teacher, how can I improve a learning experience of a student. Everything revolves around these core principles of how do I make an impact in the life of a teacher or a student or an administrator. So it's a two-way thing. Almost, it's a mix. It's a big mix between EdTechs and education. Both have their own requirements, but at the core, it's technology which we provide as a service to them.
Right. So we have from this entire interlock and the roadmap, you are aware, you can see the complete roadmap and vision of education from now until, let's say, 2030. So how does future of education looks like to you?
if it is from a parlance from a technology point of view, I think what has changed. Let me take you a few. Maybe let me take a century back, and maybe carve a path to you. Right. Think of like we are sitting in 1926, for example, right, and now we are in 20. So let's traverse the journey of 100 years. What was education looking like? There was a blackboard, there was a teacher, there's a group of students sitting in a classroom, and the teacher is teaching, student is referring to a book and learning, right? Cut to 2020 or cut to 2000, let's come to 2000. Nothing much has changed, right? I think still a teacher, I think when we were students, it was still a classroom, a blackboard, a teacher teaching and a group of students learning through books, right? What the journey has actually evolved after 2020 with the invent of technology. We started with data centers, with hardware servers, where a lot of things started getting automated. We had intervention of learning management systems, we had student management systems, we got student information systems, and then data analytics came in. Then came cloud, right? I think cloud started picking up somewhere around 2010, is where now the technology from the campus actually started going to anywhere, anytime access, right? Because of the invent of cloud. And that's where the paradigm shift have started happening. In last 3 years, if you see, with COVID, I think everything changed, right? It was a sea shift from, having everything on the campus. Suddenly, everybody started thinking that how can I give the same experience of technology of a student in the campus, in the home where they are sitting, right? And now with the invent of AI, I think the automation has gone into a different leaps and bounds, right? And now we are focusing on that. How do I make intervention at a personalized level to a student instead of a group of students in a classroom? Correct. And going forward, AI is going to be the helm of transformation and digitization of these technologies. And 2030 is still very long, but I think what we are seeing is that a lot of skill sets that the students need to acquire today may become obsolete in 5 years, right? And they need to start learning different skills. We are already talking about prompt engineering. We are already talking about how do we build multimodal systems. We are already talking about how do I use AI to improve my teaching and learning experiences. Right. This all will make leaps and bounds shift, which I think it will become very difficult for an education curriculum to catch up with, but be very relevant for a student evolution journey from that perspective.
Correct. So if I see from the infrastructure perspective, from the blackboards, from resident schools, colleges, I think COVID has been a catalyst for this entire journey and evolution per se. But from, let's say, 2030, with Gemini and all this AI into place, those applications, students and children that are there and pursuing the education, they have access to so many applications, and they are utilizing AI much more advanced compared to what we are, or even the others who are there in the market and business side. So how does infrastructure enables, or I would say from Google's perspective, how would that enable? You mentioned personalized experience. How would that be enabled?
So think of it, right? I think we are talking about democratization of education going forward, right? It's already started. I'm not saying we are not there, but that's the roadmap we are taking. When I talk about democratization of education, what it means is that a student sitting in a metro city of Mumbai should getting a kind of a learning experience. Why should not a student sitting, say, in Darbhanga or say in Coimbatore or say in Trichy should get the similar kind of experience sitting in their own vicinity, in their own town, small town, village, city, whatever you want to call it, right? That's where the access will go. Now, if you double down on this, what it means that they are learning in their local language. It means they are learning on any kind of device they have right now. It also means that their level of understanding is at par with any student who is sitting in any kind of a city or a metro city, or for that matter, maybe abroad. So when you give an experience which makes these demographical divisions, irrelevant, is where the best use of learning experience comes into play, right? And that's where the world will move towards. It won't matter that, I need to travel to a particular city to get a best education, right? We see today the most prominent EdTechs who are evolving in the country are the ones who are going on the same path of democratization of education, right? How can I give the same learning experience to a student irrespective of where he or she is sitting? Right. Think of, YouTube is a classic example.
Correct.
I don't know if you have ever tried to buffer, or have you ever seen a YouTube buffering in a village, right? It won't buffer, right? Because the technology that is available in the top class city is the same backbone which is now available there. So
Correct.
that's what I'm talking about. That it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what kind of, is it a tablet? Is it a laptop? Is it an old laptop or a new laptop? Is it a small device, expensive device? Is it an iPhone or a Android? It should not matter. The means of education should be delivered in as is form wherever the student is.
Right. So, with the insight that you have shared, what I could visualize is any institution, be it school or a college, uh, is a global institution from day one.
Correct.
And not from demography perspective. The moment it is there, it is functioning, enabled with this advanced infrastructure. They would be able to teach, communicate in different native languages, be it Spanish, French, Hindi, whatever, and also availability of the infrastructure. So it's not necessary for a particular people used to travel hours for education. Now it's at the vicinity of I mean, they can be on a beach and study as well. Right lifestyle balance. Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Vaibhav. And from curriculum perspective, what do you see? Again, this was from the infrastructure, but from the curriculum perspective, what do you see as the skills which would be on the highest demand by 2030?
So building on top of AI is going to be the next wave of technological intervention in education, right? Now, if you go a bit deeper into what it means, right? Every student has its own learning capacity and capabilities, correct? I'll take my example. When I was a student, books used to bore me, right? And if somebody comes and tells me a concept in my ear, I think that is where my whole, the whole understanding of the subject becomes very easy. For somebody, it's seeing. If I've seen students who say, when I watch a YouTube video, I think I get the best learning experience there, and I will be able to grasp the concept much more there. And we continue to have students who still learn from books, and and now the digitization of books has already happened. So it doesn't matter that what form of learning experience you are getting, till the time I'm able to give experience to a student in the form they want, in the language they want, and in the kind of device or non-device they want to learn on, is where the whole wave is moving. It is difficult for an education system as vast as India to be expected to update their curriculum as frequently as we want them to be, because AI is now changing every week. Now we've gone on the buzz where we say, okay, after 6 months something will change. I think what I'm talking today may be irrelevant maybe a month from now. Correct? On something new would have come on top of it. So the bridging the gap of this industry academia, right, or the technological wave and what students are being taught has to be filled by a gap where EdTechs are playing a big role, right? So whatever delta their students are in a, let's take a BTech computer science program, right? They are learning the basic concepts of technology and everything, right? But whatever is getting added as top of the new layer of technological intervention can be taught through these online courses that are available, right? Or can be taught through self-based learning, certifications for that matter. So every tech company which is right now very serious about making an intervention in education is also ensuring that there is content available for students to learn on top of what they are actually learning in an institute, right? With the new NEP, National Education Policy, coming in, I think we have already moved to a credit-based system. It's no more that, okay, if I have to complete the 4 years of BTech or any graduation program for that matter to be employable or to be considered as a degree holder. If I, for some reason, wants to drop off in between and maybe rejoin the education system at later point of time, my credits are intact. So I don't have to start from scratch. So I think government is also looking at those interventions from a policy point of view, that the focus should shift on learning than on a physical degree or a certification.
Correct. I see a lot of programs that are there from international recognized institutions like Harvard and all, MIT. Again, accessible, which were not there earlier, but now accessible to global population.
Correct.
And technology plays a very important role. And I see, for example, if we just join the dots, we have these low orbit satellites, which are enabling internet access to deepest of the seas and highest of the mountains and places where internet and access is not available. Second is advancement not only from education but also from the agriculture side, where again technology is not there, but once we have that access, that evolution would happen. Now, from there, how do you see, again, not specific to Google, but from your experience and interacting with various different institutions, how are institutions in India adopting this? Are they at par or are they staggering? What's missing?
So, uh, traditionally, if you see, education as a vertical has been the laggards in
Right.
adoption of technology, right? And for the rightful reasons. I'm not trying to put a blame on them. I'm just trying to say that their core is teaching, right? A teacher comes in an institute to teach. A student comes in an institute to learn. If you actually add a layer of technology and tell them, okay, use these 5 tools to teach,
Right.
it is a disruption for them. It is not as seamless as an adoption as any of our IT professionals would take it, right? Because for us, we live in day in day out on technology, but for them, it's an intervention. It's a learning curve. So it's how much easy can we make for a teacher to use that tool to deploy to make the teaching experience better? How, if I have to again go deeper into this, can I automate rudimentary activities or things that are repetitive in nature for them? What are these things? Creating lesson plans, creating
Right.
question papers, assessments for that matter, handwriting recognition, anything and everything that you can think of. These are the things where most of the teachers will spend most of their time even after college hours, right? So we are trying to see if we can automate those stuff. That's the first thing, and we have taken actually leaps and bounds steps. I think that problem is solved. Come to a student, right? Student, as I mentioned earlier, can I improve a concept level experience of a learning for a student?
Right.
Think of a JEE preparation, for example. We all have gone through this the journey of preparing for competitive exams, irrespective of whether you cracked it or not. But if you miss a concept, it's always a catching up in the next subject, right? Today you have tools available where you can actually assess a concept level understanding of a student
Correct.
before moving to the next topic. And if you don't do this, the chances are that it will have a cascading effect, and the student will not be as prepared as we want them to be, right? So if you can test a concept level before, if you are in concept 3, and if a concept 3 is can be intervened and say, okay, these are the few things you need to come and learn more to go to concept 4. There's no point somebody moving to 5, 6, 7
Correct.
if that is not ready. So this is called hyper personalized intervention, which is happening these days. So this is where this is something which is valuable for a teacher also and a student. Now in a class of 60, a teacher would know that, okay, Vaibhav is lagging in concept 5 of maths, for example, or and Archie is maybe lagging in concept chapter 6 and some there, right? So if he or she can come and intervene at that point of time and tell me this is what you should do, and this is what you should brush up your knowledge before you move to the next one, I think that's a win, right? That's where we will see success of adoption of technologies, and that's where our intervention is. It's not about creating fancy tools and creating fancy apps and giving it into a hand of a teacher, which actually doesn't make sense to them, right? It is about how much can we go deeper into their experiences, how can we intervene at the places which matters the most. Correct. Right? And give them, say, a dashboard, or give them a bird's eye view of how your class is looking like, right? Which student needs intervention where, and then maybe build on top of it, and also automate the assessment tools on top of it. For example, let's assume I don't understand Pythagoras theorem as well as I was expected to be, right? Can I just create a quiz or an assessment around Pythagoras theorem before I actually move to the next chapter, right? So for me, it might be different. For you, it might be different. Right. So we have reached that stage, or I would say we are still making small steps, but we have almost reached that stage where we can make those kind of interventions. And when you bring all this together, if a teacher is happy, if a student is happy with technology, I think institute will have no reason but to adopt it and take it forward.
Absolutely. And how does the proctored examinations remotely and making sure it's still proctored and governance is there, how does that interlock?
So Proctor came in fashion during COVID because obviously you couldn't move out of your location, correct? Yeah. but you still need to give exams, you need to still take exams, you need to still evaluate a student, right? It started with a very scratchy kind of a technology where you put a camera and
Correct.
where a student is recorded while the entire examination, then somebody would physically come and look at the video if there was some kind of a misconduct done during that, right? But with the advent of video technologies, with the advent of things like speech recognition and all of that, we have actually come to a very near foolproof proctored system, right?
Mhm.
But the only problem with proctored is it was required only if it was a necessity to be remote,
Right.
correct? If you can still bring them into a controlled environment, it's still easier. So when you look at the cost, ROI on a proctored, I think it has come down. It was very relevant during COVID,
Mhm.
but as a trend, we are seeing a decline in the proctored, unless you are talking about the standard certification exams where these are global exams
Right.
and a central agency doing it. There it still exists because it's still relevant, but at scale, at an institute level, it may not be that relevant as it was during COVID.
Right, right. And even from institutions, be it colleges and schools, uh, I've interacted with various colleges and schools as well, where the institutions, the HODs, the deans, they're quite keen to adopt all the state of art technologies. However, from the execution perspective, making it practically implemented, as you rightly said, from professors and the teachers and all, getting them acquainted with these technologies is a challenge which I have experienced from my interactions and all.
Mhm.
What are your views around
See,
it?
it boils down to how much are you, pinpointing and solving a problem which a professor is facing,
Yeah.
right? If you can really solve the problem which they are facing by the intervention of technology, they will adopt it. And it's forget professor. I think look at everything that is going viral these days. Everything a technology piece of technology that gives you an ease of use, is where the success lies. Correct.
Correct.
So instead of building fancy tools or attractive tools or apps which are fancy, which actually doesn't solve anything, to building a very simple platform or simple app which actually intervenes and solve a very small problem. As I said, take assessment, take learning experience, take teaching, any one of these, pick very small thing, build something around it, everybody will adopt. I think the most successful edtechs that I've worked with today are the ones definitely who have seen the COVID wave and survived, because the ones which only joined the bandwagon of doing something in edtech because it was a fashion that time have all perished, right? The ones who have sustained and grown and are become profitable right now are the ones who are actually solving a particular pain point of a student or a teacher, right?
Yeah.
And you will find so many of them. It's no more scarce. It's you'll in India we work with almost 200 plus edtechs or even more than that, right? Who are right now very relevant and growing. And I'm talking the larger ones. I'm not talking the long tail
Right.
of it. In India today, we'll have more than 2,000 edtechs, who are still trying to do something and build something which solves the problem of a teacher and a student. So it comes down to the same thing. If it is solving some problem for me and it is not a fancy tool that you're trying to impose on me where I don't want, I would definitely go and adopt it. And the same thing applies for an institute or a professor for that matter.
Right. Let's come down to
Mm.
education,
Mm.
the infrastructure and the curriculum and technology. Quite an interesting conversation, but I wanted to. I'm very keen to get your thoughts around. So we have Gemini, so which gives me everything that I need. We have Nano Banana. We have all. If I want to be into creatives, I have that. The information and also the technology. I was going through various new devices which takes notes and give you real time. So coming down from the evolution of calculators, so we stopped calculating offhand while the calculator was there. Now with computer, it further reduced that. With AI and all these Gemini and the enablement, uh, do you see at any or some point in time education will become obsolete?
Not at all. It's a short answer is no. Neither education is becoming obsolete nor the teachers. None of them are going anywhere, right? Their profile and roles will change. Their adoption will evolve. Their consumption patterns will evolve, right? For example, let me take same examples. When we were students, right? If we can learn a concept, mug it up, and reproduce in an answer sheet, I think that's where we
Correct.
scored, right? Uh, was it a best real life skill, or was it adding value for my industry readiness? Maybe no. But at that point of time, that was the best way to impart education. Today, you have everything on a click of a button. Go to a Gemini, ask a question, you will get an answer. You will all not only get an answer, you will get the steps by which the answer is arrived at. Right? Go and ask the toughest JE problem to
Right.
Gemini. It will give you a perfect answer, near perfect answer.
Right.
The how, not only the answer, but how the steps to solve it. Now, what is changing now for a student, right? No more mugging up of concept. Nobody's going to come and ask you to reproduce a Pythagoras theorem. Let's go to the same
Correct.
example, right? They will come and assess you on that. How is the practical implementation of a Pythagoras theorem in the real life? Is what is the difference, right? So for a student, they need to evolve from just learning or mugging up a concept to connecting it to a real life situation, or the adaptability and the implementation of the concept they are learning. So that's the change in technological, that's the intervention of technology which will evolve the way education is delivered, right? I don't so for the same thing, teacher will now have a role of a mentor and a coach more than somebody who has to impart education. And it
Correct.
has happened, right? I've met teachers who said, when I go into the class, students have already used some AI model to learn the
Right.
concept, and they know
Yeah.
what I'm going to teach. So what now I need to do is that, do they really understand the core level concept,
Correct.
or they've just mugged up the this thing, right? Because mugging up, learning a concept, repeating, or reproducing it in an answer sheet is no more the way a student is going to assess. When you go really deep into, say, higher education, and when you're graduating out of an institute, and company who's coming and interviewing you for your concept level information is no more, they will ask you to write a code, right? Because they know writing a code is available by a code assist, right?
Correct.
So now they will understand that, okay, if there's a problem, how is the student thinking about using the same coding technology to arrive at a model that can solve that problem. So your cognitive ability needs to evolve. Your problem solving abilities need to evolve. Your concepts to real life situation needs to be enhanced.
Right.
And that's where the role of a student will change, right? So everyone will evolve into a different way they are working in their own particular roles. And if you are not adapting to that, is where you might get obsolete. So a particular teacher might get obsolete because they were resistant to
Right.
adopting
Change. Yeah.
technology. But in general, a teacher is not going anywhere. A physical institute is not going anywhere. Students are continuing to be going to institutes and learn. That's my personal belief.
And
Yeah.
to what extent Gemini should be part of education with all governance and all, because I see students completely overwhelmed with these technology, and they have, yes, as you mentioned, they have already have the concept clear, they have answers to the questions that are being asked in the examinations and all. So the textbook culture. So going through a textbook or a reference book, it's already there. It's much more accessible through Gemini versus going through a book. And a teacher imparting one way, again, that's obsolete. It's more of a mutual kind of a brainstorming, group discussion kind of activities, which would be more prevalent. But to what extent Gemini should be part of education?
It is already a part of education, right? And it will continue to be a core driver in developing educational tools for students and teachers, right? However, you have to be careful about how you're using it, correct? If I'm a student learning a concept, and if I get stuck, and my first thing is to go to ask in Gemini an answer and get an answer, may not be the best way to approach it, right?
Right.
First is ask the question yourself. What can you do to solve a particular problem where you are stuck at, right? If you are not able to still get it, then maybe you can go to an intervention where you use one of these models to get an answer from, right? Or you use Gemini where you have, let's assume you have picked up a best professor, but the professor is teaching in French in some place, right? Can you pick up that video and convert into English or Hindi or in your native language to learn from him or her? Because apparently the person is the best in there, but they don't speak your language. That's where your intervention should be, right? So modeling things in your benefit without being lazy about learning is where the success of Gemini adoption is going to be. It's always a very thin line, right? You will have a mix of students whose first point of call will be a Gemini or any AI model for that matter to start learning. But what culture we need to imbibe in those students is that, okay, this is a backup available to you. But first try to think, solve,
Correct.
deliberate on your own, keep your cognitive ability and thinking abilities intact, and then use it as a backup for the tools. But if you go on the other side of it, if you go into the teaching thing, maybe it will take a front row there, because there I need to know a lot of data. There I need to know which student is lagging in which concept, right? If I put an assessment there, if I can get a personalized intervention at a student level, then as a professor it becomes a big asset for me, right?
Right.
Then it is not secondary, it's primary for me.
Correct.
Go to an administrator, who is running an institute. What's my fee collection ratio? What is my student dropout rate? How is my students admission patterns coming in? Look at digital marketing, how many students came into my portal but did not register or sign up for a course. Those are again Gemini first, those are AI first things, because
Right.
that is very valuable and useful for an administrator to run the institute in a much more proper way. So it is all use case dependent. Our suggestion is that these tools are there for students. Obviously, it should be kind of a backup for them. For administrator and for teachers, it can definitely be a game changer on doing a lot of stuff which they continue to do manually these days.
Yeah, because over the past many years, I've been engaged with IITs and IIMs as well. So the professors there, they have that level of depth in all the concepts and all. And recently, I was interacting with some of the IITs professors. They have been using Gemini and all these tools and utilizing it for the benefit of the re-architecture of their curriculums. And as you rightly said, getting the visibility about students, so who is not able to understand which particular concept, that kind of a customized individual level visibility is helping them a lot. Yeah, you're spot on.
Absolutely. And and these professors, the IIT professors, and I interact with a lot of them also, they are the ones who are also very innovative to come and tell what do they want this Gemini to do. See, one is you become a slave of a tool, right?
Correct.
Or one, you become a master of the tool. So when you know that how can I use the tool to the best benefit of what I want, I think you will be fine, because there the productivity that you will get out of it will be phenomenal, right? Rather than being, okay, I'm being just lazy and okay, I don't want to create a question paper, so I'm just using a tool to create a question paper, right? Today, we have seen lesson plans that can be segregated by difficulty levels.
Correct.
Right? They can be different for different students. I remember when I used to, prepare for competitive exams, there used to be set A, set B, set C, right? Today, I think there can be set 1, 2 to 60. For
Correct.
60 students, you can have 60 question
Absolutely.
papers. And it's not a question of how you do it. It's a question whether you want to do it or not, right?
Right.
Whether you want to give 60 different question papers to 60 students in the class, right? But it's possible. If a teacher feels that, okay, I've got 60 students who have different levels of understanding, and I want to create, let's not go to 60, even 10 sets of question paper. With just a click of a button, they can just upload, the subject, and we can create, a question paper out of it. And I'm not talking about creating question paper from the web or the internet at large. I'm talking about guardrailing a question paper to the point, to the T, where you want to guardrail the content about, right?
Correct.
For example, if I am a teacher who has given a virtual video or a lecture on a particular concept to a particular class, right? Can I use that same video, upload it into a tool, and create a question paper out of it? Very much possible. The tool will not go entire universe or the entire internet to create a question. It will just use that 15 minutes of video to generate relevant question paper for the student, right?
Correct.
Same for assessments, right? When you are evaluating, assessment of exam that has been given by students, we can go to a level where a tool can actually do the first level of assessment, mark the answers, and give marks. And the teacher's job is only to overview it. Okay, there can be errors, there can be model which are still not to the mark for a particular concept. So teacher's job remains, okay, I've got 90% of the answers done. These are the few things where I need to intervene. Maybe I can go and change the marks. So 90% of the problem is solved. 10% remains. So it depends on how you want to use the technology and how you want to use these tools to get the best of your productivity high. Is where the whole crux lies.
Yeah, the productivity, I mean, optimization of productivity with these tools is phenomenal, I would say. And from your experience and vision, what are the core skills every student, be it from schools or colleges, should have, which would be mandatory by 2030, which they may not be focusing right now?
If you're talking about soft skills, I think it's curiosity and the excitement to use a tool, correct?
Right.
So curiosity and cognitive ability, these are no brainers. You need to be curious about things. What next,
Correct.
right? You need to be able to connect the concept to a real life use case, and that's where the whole paradigm will shift.
Yeah.
If you're lagging on that, and if you're only mugging up things without properly understanding where the use of this concept is going to be, I think that's where a student's evolution will stop, right? And we see some patterns around it, which these tools come and intervene again on those patterns. Few things will get obsolete, few things will get evolved. I think, whether it is a job, whether it is in education, whether it is in any industry for that matter, a few things will get automated.
Correct.
Few things will get obsolete, few things, and the only thing is, if you are learning enough to be updated to the next wave of technology, you will continue to be relevant to the industry, to the roles, right? It's only about how much you are hungry to learn. We used to talk about lifelong learners few years back. Now we are talking about life-wide learners. The difference between the lifelong learner and life-wide is, lifelong learner is somebody who is continuously learning, which is not bad, which is continues to be a concept. But life-wide learner is somebody who is doing learning by experience. Right?
Correct.
So can you try few things? Can you make your hands dirty? Can you deep dive into technology and see what they can do for you? Right? Those are the places where the best of the innovations come out. Right? Best of the innovations are not copy paste. Oh, somebody has done something, I will also do something. Right? I keep talking to a lot of edtechs who are putting R&Ds into place to go and sit in a classroom and see where the student is facing a problem, rather than saying, okay, this is a fancy feature, let me build this up. It doesn't work that way, right? So anybody who is going to the core and trying to solve a problem for a student is going to be successful. Somebody who is trying to just catch up, wait and watch, okay, let somebody do something, test it out. By the time you come into the play, they will be much ahead of you. So you'll always be catching up and you'll never be successful.
Yeah. And then prompt engineering came up, so rapidly. It was not existing at all. Whoever thought of that putting in a prompt would be a skill, and then getting the right output. So, in olden days, it could be more about how we communicate or how we ask questions. So that's what prompt engineering is. Now, with this being one of the skills that I could see everybody who is into, be it schools, colleges, they should be well versed, well acquainted with prompt engineering. Somewhere around this circle, are there any other skills, tool sets which everybody should put their hands on?
So one thing, maybe let me start from the other side of it, right? What I personally believe, right? The syntactical coding is going to be absolutely obsolete. But we used to learn that, okay, how do I write a code to create a Fibonacci series for that example, right? Those are absolutely going obsolete. So basic fundamental coding may not be as relevant in 2030, right? But how do you write a prompt to write a code for the outcome that you want that program to make?
Correct.
Is where the whole skill sets will go together, right? Prompt engineering is also evolving, right? You talked about Nano Banana. We are doing VO3s. Today, we have seen videos by media industries which is totally generated by VO3 with zero intervention, right? One of the media industries, I was talking to one of my colleagues, and he was telling me that this 5-minute video was created in like 2 days time frame, which otherwise would have costed them say 1 CR of money and a crew and maybe a month, right? So that's where the technology has moved. You would see movies coming in which are only AI generated, right? And it's already happening. I think we only used to see cartoons which used to be like technology generated, but you will find the entire movie is now coming up which will be AI generated. And when a movie can be formed, why not a teaching mechanism, right? For that matter, let's assume I'm learning a concept for engineering, and suddenly I want a video representation of it.
Correct.
So can I put the same prompt into VO3 and say, okay, give me a 2-minute video which summarizes this concept in an animated format for that matter, right? Or in a podcast format, which we are doing right now. This is where the world has moved towards.
Correct.
You don't know where the world is going toward. Tomorrow you will have multimodal, multi kind of a technology available which students can use. But it's a slow, gradual step which will continue to evolve in their own sweet ways, where you will find the success and the parameters of success will continue to evolve and change.
Right. This reminds me to another tangent. Back, from movies like Three Idiots and all, which talks about or which are revolving around college life and all. So there are instances where they are uh, sneaking into the professor's closet and getting the question paper for the examinations out. Now, with all these technologies which we are using, I mean, half of the questionnaires or most of my questionnaires that I'm preparing, even for any kind of analysis, we are getting into a habit of putting it into Gemini and getting its perspective, or getting it more cleaned up version and all, or maybe some other dimension around those questions. How do we govern what, from education perspective, let's say a professor or a teacher is creating a questionnaire and all, how do we govern data security within these tool sets?
See, more than that, so there are tools and things available, and we at Google Cloud, we also have a lot of security tools available to ensure that there's no security breaches, your data is secure. One good thing is that whenever you use any customer data, it resides in the customer tenant. It doesn't leave the tenant. The Gemini is just on top of it. Any AI tool for that matter is on top of it. It gives you analysis, but the data doesn't leave your premise, and it continues to be within your tenant, which is fully secured with the best of the technologies, right? More than the data security, we are also looking at the responsible AI feature of it, right? I'm not sure if you follow Sundar Pichai. He keeps talking about, how can we make our AI engine. So we are not in a hurry to launch models which can be detrimental to a culture or a society or a section of it, and a model that might hallucinate or not give accurate answers, right? So everything that Google does is in a very responsible nature, ensures that it's a part of the product, and it's not that okay, you launch it and then see if something goes wrong or not. So it's very, very guardrailed. So we ensure that anything that goes to the market or goes to the masses is very responsible and is very secure by the by the quality of it, and not by learning experience that okay, let's see what happens. That's not the philosophy.
Right.
Do you think that a tool or a product that is serving a billion users can have the flexibility to not be responsible or
Of course,
have errors in place, right? It's that secure. It's that's in our DNA, right? We don't go and launch something which we don't think is ready for the market, correct? So that's the engineering might that goes beyond at the hinds of the Google, and we ensure that it's all very, very clearly available with all the guidelines put in place, and with all the social sect, everybody in place. It's very inclusive, it's very accessible. So that's the DNA, right? So we are very particular about taking anything to the market which should not be detrimental or harmful to anyone. Correct. And any sect of the person in the world. So, and same lies for education, right? Correct. So anything, education is the core of it, right? We don't want a student to learn something which is not correct,
of course,
or some teacher getting into a problem because they used an AI tool. So those all things are as a part of it, and obviously the EdTechs come and build on top of it and ensure that it's even more secure and it's even more relevant for them.
Yeah, because I was not Gemini, but I was just playing around with a similar tool, and I was able to hallucinate the engine, and it started interacting as if, I mean, literally I was in an impression that it's not AI, it's some human whose ego has been hurt. And because I asked that tool to give me some output, because it was not provisioned to give such output, it faked it. Because and then it clarified that because you were asking me so bluntly, I felt that I should still answer. So it tried to mislead me. It got hallucinated. So but I've seen very prominently played around with Gemini as well. It's quite foolproof.
That's the danger of AI, right? Yeah. So if you don't do a good job of building a model or creating a tool that you perceive is useful for the entire universe of the mankind, I think that's where most of the people who are working with AI actually tend to fail, right?
Correct.
Because one wrong step there can actually change lives, right? And we don't want to be there. So and thanks for your experience for Gemini. I think at my personal level, I've not heard any such kind of negative feedbacks around them. All the EdTechs and all the institutes who are right now using Gemini have been fairly adaptive and very useful for them on the way they are using it.
Yeah. Thanks, Vaibhav. It has been very insightful conversation going on. Let me quickly get into a one-liner, or I would say a rapid-fire, shoot you with some questions.
Go for it.
The first one is the one AI myth you strongly disagree with.
It will replace humans. It's absolutely not real, and it's not when you look at the longevity of it, right? It is the humans who are going to control the AI. So they're not taking any jobs. AI now is not replacing any teachers. It's not replacing any institutes or physical campuses. It is just how you use it. So I don't think AI is going to replace anything that a human does, which is more productive in nature.
Mm-hmm. And one EdTech buzzword that you dislike the most?
Disruptive. I see a most overused word of disruption. I think more than disruption, if it is, I would trying to call it alignment, right? So if you get aligned with a process or a problem that needs to be solved, I think that's going to be that will be more successful for an edtech than to really break something which is already working and try to reinvent the wheel and try to really turn things upside down from a teaching and a learning experience point of view.
True. And one AI risk most people underestimate?
The misuse of AI, right? Most of the time, we try to ignore the risk that AI can bring in. As I mentioned, right, it can make a student lazy, for example, right, or stop their all cognitive abilities and just rely on AI. So those risks are real, but there are ways to navigate it. So the good thing is everybody who is working on AI is actually also trying to address that problem. Those who are not should start doing it now.
One skill that will be irrelevant in next 5 years?
I talked about it, syntactic coding, right? So the way we used to traditionally learn languages and write codes is definitely going to be, it's already almost at the verge of obsolescence. It's how you use the models to write codes is where the technology will evolve towards.
Super, thank you. And one skill every student must build to survive in the AI world?
Thinking and continue solving problems. There's no other way to do it. If you're not using your brain cells to think beyond what AI is giving you as an output, and you're not building your cognitive ability, I think chances are that you will never be industry ready, and industry will keep moving faster than what you are.
True. In fact, looking at students, children being so much dependent onto AI, at times I get worried. Would it be a future of zombies getting those nano chips implanted and then?
I can't comment on futures, but yeah, definitely it's not very, very near that is going to happen for sure. Yeah.
True. And best career advice you ignored and why?
Okay, so this might ruffle a few feathers, but follow your passion. I think a lot of people at some point of time told me you should follow your passion, right? And it continues to be a lot of air around this. Thankfully, I didn't follow it because I was not clear what my passion was. So personally, for me, it worked well. I'm not really advising that you should not follow your passion, but for me, it worked well. I stuck to the traditional way of learning and traditional way of studying, taking a job, progressing in life, kind of a thing. Today it might have changed, but if I look myself 20 years back, I think I don't regret not following the passion at that point of time.
Super. And then finally, one advice, both from the institution's perspective, the education institutions today, as well as for the students.
Be a life-wide learner. I think I also touched about it. Try things out. Be experiential in your learning experiences rather than just trying to mug things up. That is where your whole differentiation will come from, your peer students, your peer institutes, and in the world at large. So if you're continuing to be curious around doing new things by doing it yourself, I think that's where you will be always successful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Vaibhav. First of all, really insightful conversation, and thanks for taking time out today. I know you have a very, very busy schedule and back-to-back meetings today, but thanks for taking time out and coming over.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure is always mine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Vaibhav. I hope you liked today's podcast. Please do subscribe and comment. Do share your feedback, and also recommend if you want to have any specific genre which we need to touch upon. Thank you.